Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Intuition Summit. Today, we are talking with Machiel Klerk, who is going to share with us about dream guidance. And he's written a book, a fabulous book, I might add, with the same name. He is a psychotherapist who specializes in helping people connect to their own creative wisdom. He's an international speaker, dream worker, and initiated shamanic diviner. He is author of Dream Guidance, Connecting to the Soul Through Dream Incubation. He founded the Jung Platform, an organization that provides programs for personal development from a soul-centered perspective. He is on the board of the International Society for Embodied Imagination, and he also helps people identify the changes they need to make so they can live a more engaged, creative life and fulfill their life's purpose. Welcome, Machiel.
Thank you, Amy and Abby. It's such a pleasure to be with you.
You too.
Yes.
Thanks for being here.
And hello to Abby. Hello to Abby. We are continuing to spread the love and light with our summit. Exactly.
You think of your book every time you do that. It's so fun. I love it. Happy everybody's here. So we were talking about, it's kind of like a light journey that we're on, a light tour through all these different interviews and just people and just illuminating your intuition, right? Like that is the light within you. So we're just excited to be able to share and just let your light shine, everybody.
Exactly. Machiel, we wanted to have you here today because so many people, in fact, one could say everybody dreams, that intuition is really one of the, or can be one of the main ways that people every day can access their intuition.
Yeah, what a lot of people have seen over time is that dreams proactively provide ideas, insights for business projects, creative projects, books. The largest oil field in Kuwait was founded based on a dream. I started the company Jung Platform based on a dream. Paul McCartney wrote a song Yesterday that was delivered to him in a dream. So many creative endeavors are being revealed to us in our dreams. And we could see that as some form of intuition. The old African tradition where I trained mentioned the shamans there mentioned that they didn't really have a word for intuition. They said ancestors are talking to you. So the notion that there is some support and guidance on the other side or in the other world that is parallel to this and that communicates with us and tells us things that can be helpful for our journey. And of course, what you explore is how can we listen to that? And one way to do that is be attuned to our dream life.
I've heard many people, including yourself, say that it can be really helpful to keep a dream journal. What are some ways that people can connect with their dreams for guidance in their lives? Well,
the dream journal is really step one, because if we don't write down the dream, they usually disappear, they evaporate. That's because at night our short-term memory goes offline, it doesn't function well. So it only kicks back on when we wake up. And so if you don't write down the dream, it's gone. So, and you have to write down the dreams. And that then immediately communicates to the dream and to the figures in the world of dream that you're interested. And just that sense of interest shifts them. The face we turn towards the unconscious or the other world, that face gets mirrored back. So we're interested, they show more interest. And the other notion in that is also there appears to be free will, and we need to provide some informed consent to the world of dream and its inhabitants that we are wanting to receive help, because otherwise they just let us figure it out on our own with some sporadic little drops and hints, but we can improve the level of intuition, the level of dreams by showing interest. And that starts with writing them down. And we can talk about more, but that's really a great first step.
In dreams, we can have so many different experiences, and sometimes we might think, oh, that was meaningless, or we might think it was so profound. How can you differentiate or help us understand when our intuition is speaking to us or the ancestors are speaking to us in dreams versus just sort of some static or noise that isn't really necessary?
Yeah, that is, of course, the $1,000,000 question. And some dreams are easy; they're profound. You get a tune in your mind, or you were stuck in writing a book, and then once the plot line gets played out in your dream, those are clear. But most of the time, the dream is it speaks in symbols and in metaphors. And so just to develop a sense of poetic ear and eye is a great way to connect with the dream. If you dream, for example, I'm walking into a one-way street, then that is just the three-dimensional representation of the notion that you're walking into a one-way street, something with a dead end. And that way we can understand our dreams better. Now, the dream do sometimes provide helpful insights, but what to really spark it is to proactively ask your dream for support and guidance. So there's a 5-step process that I wrote out in the book Dream Guidance, in which you can turn towards the dream and then ask your dream a question for anything that's relevant to your life. And that's a great way, because the dream will always respond to that. Sometimes in riddle form, but it always responds to us reaching out.
Because after all, the dream is us. Like, we're really just deeply connecting with ourselves, right?
Well, there's a bit of a philosophical question. What is us? And one, if you would meet your deceased ancestor, would you say that is us? At one level, you could say in a non-dual world, everything is the same and of the same substance, and there is no difference. But in our experiential reality, we truly encounter other. So there are ancestors or forces in the other world that look over our shoulders and see whether we stay attuned to our life path, and that deliver insights and support for that. So in that way, we would consult other. In the non-dual way, it's all one thing.
Yeah. Well, I know that you came into this from a very transformative and emotional place in your life. Are you willing to share how you started working with your dreams, Machiel?
Yeah. At the age of 10, my father relatively unexpected died. And it was a massive shock to me and my family. And my culture, my family didn't know how to grieve. So I learned the hard way that if you don't deal with grief, that doesn't disappear, but it just builds up. And in my early 20s, I found myself in a really dark pit. Lost the sense of hope and meaning. The future just seemed dark. I didn't have a future vision. And by some fortunate chance, I stumbled upon the works of Carl Jung, who gave me some sense of how to deal with dreams and how to look at them. And so at once my life broke open because the dreams came back. I started having dreams of my father, other sense that there was life after death, and more fundamentally, things that showed where I was in my own life. Like a psychological X-ray, it showed what I was doing, and some were very unhelpful things. And when the dream shows that, mirrors that back to yourself, it's you go like, oh yeah, that's what I do. I see a character, and I asked, where in myself do I recognize this character? And you think, oh yeah, I do that too. And then you cannot deny that my case, that I was sleeping in way too long, not going to school, just being somewhere between lazy and self-destructive in that way. And but it was mirroring back. And so then I started changing these things. So both on the, let's say, more on the shadow side, it displayed a sense of talent or area that I could develop in. And so life came back, and a sense of purpose and passion and color. And that was where it all started. And since then, I did hang on to the thread of dreams, because it pulled me out of the dark pit into a more colorful life. And I've been grateful to the world of dream and its inhabitants for its support. And now I can say that it continues to provide help on the journey of life. And that doesn't mean you still have all the problems, but you get ways of dealing with loneliness, abandonment, troubles, heartbreak, or just bringing in some of your own contributions to the world.
In your case, did your father spontaneously show up to you in a dream?
Yeah, I didn't ask for it because I didn't really know that was possible. Mm-hmm. But what happened in that time is that I really started to deal with the grief and loss. And so I was thinking again about that, and I could feel the grief and was proactively engaged in working through it. And then at night, that reflected by all kinds of dreams. And first I had dreams in which I would be present at the funeral of my father. And then I thought, oh yeah, actually I'm only now really having a funeral for my father. And then later he showed up, and I think that sometimes deceased loved ones show up and it's symbolic. They stand in for something, and sometimes they show up as they're really dad or husband or wife or grandfather or whoever is deceased at the other side.
You know, I was just thinking how we tune into our intuition and tie it together to dreams. I think that from what I've known about the subconscious mind is it actually opens up in the dream state more, right? So once we open our subconscious mind, we can also open to our intuition. And to me, that intuition is the soul's guidance. So when you're saying, you know, I don't know if these are your exact words, but going over to the other side or just connecting to the other realms, right? So when we tune in and open up to that, I think it's beautiful to find the guidance available to us. And so I think even finding healing, like it sounds like you found through that, you know, so somehow creating the bridge for people to acknowledge their dreams as a way to heal. And as they develop their intuition, it just becomes easier. So just kind of tying intuition into all of it is just kind of my thought, if you're wondering what I was thinking.
Yes. Yeah. And to muse further on that, dreams is a state of consciousness we enter into at night. But that state of consciousness doesn't disappear when we open up our eyes. Mm-hmm. It just coexists. So one way to think about it is you could say, oh, here's our habitual consciousness, here's the unconscious or the dreaming consciousness. And at night, we sink into it. But during the day, it's still there. And when we have a bit of a sense into our body and into our life, or in meditative states, or we're in the flow, these two states, they start merging. So this realm where all the intuition is just present all the time. And in dreams, we sink into it a little bit more, but also in daydreams or in meditative states or in flow states, this merges. And that is what we call intuition.
So how do you get into that state? That's what I think is important too. It's there. So can you give us an experience of getting into that state so people can start to open up to have that? To me, experience is the best teacher.
There's two ways. There's multiple ways, of course, like meditation, yoga, all those ways, body practices, slowing down. Usually slowing down versus speeding up is important that way.
I mean, I totally agree with you. I'm thinking like the flow state too. It's like, I can't wait to go for a run after this, because it puts your mind in that state of calm and relaxation. So you can open up to your intuition and the dream state. You also said meditation or yoga. So in my experience, physical activity or also stillness can quiet the mind, the conscious mind, actually, to then open up the subconscious and then the intuition. So, I think whatever people love to do to get in that state, physically or meditation, will open that.
It is a slowing down that opens up to the meditation, and all kinds of forms of rituals will help. So a ritual is the old idea that we connect to the other world, and as the other world is always coexisting to this world, whether we call the other world the world of the dead or the dream world or the unconscious or the other world, it's a coexisting state. And by doing a ritual, we grind this invisible wall between us and the other world, the intuition world, and then the intuition comes in. And so ritual is really helpful, and it can be like a candle, saying a prayer, doing something that invites intuition to be part of our life, and the other world responds that way. I work that out in my book on dreams. Like, you can ask the dream a question, but as the dream is also present in day-to-day life, you could just say, intuition, I'm stuck with my relationship, or what would I do here? And then just slow down, listen, and then almost always you get a hunch, a sense, and very often people discount it. They think, oh, I asked this and immediately I got an answer, but it can't be right. And that's really a Western rational inheritance that we have, that because we don't really believe in the other world and all these things from in general. But if we have to learn that to take the first impulse, and the more we dare to lean into that, the better it works and the stronger that connection becomes. The more we trust it, the easier we connect to it. But that's another practice that people can do after this, that they just slow down, ask, say, intuition, what can I do to be more healthy? Or what is going on between me and my partner? Or what's one thing I can do to love myself more deeply? And then what do you hear, or what do you see as an image? And just take that. Say, well, this may be strange, or I don't know, did I make that? Did I create it, or did that come? And just go with it. So that is another way where people can strengthen the way to connect with their intuition.
Yeah, I love that, answering the question and then knowing you already have the answer, or connecting to the dream will answer the question. That's just sets you up for success.
Yeah, it sets you up for success. We live in a certain way in a difficult and benign universe.
Yeah.
And another way that comes to mind how people can connect more to their intuition is to find either that what you go after, that what you love, or move towards what you fear. And in both areas, you're probably arriving at a place in your life where you need to be. And in that place, you're also starting to merge again with a flow state. Even in your trouble, if you proactively engage with the grief that I had growing up, or my fear of my insecurity of something, I normally would prefer not to be insecure, so I would push it away. But if I say, gosh, let me lean into this insecurity and accept it, and at once I get connected with aspects of my own being that are also connective to the other side, or the intuition, and intuition starts flowing. So that flows in your trouble, and it flows in that what you love. So those are other ways to nurture and practice this.
Yeah. I mean, intuition is always present. That's what I love. I love, love, love that.
It's always present.
When we sleep, we're sort of surrendering to our daily thoughts and emotions so that we can, and I really love how you show those layers, we can really merge and go deeper into that, which you say, and I believe Abby and I would agree, is always there. We just have the busyness of the day, or certain thoughts or feelings or fears that can block us from it.
That is right. I just concur. And so that's another way to really look at what is the fear, and then move into that fear so that you work on the blockage towards it. But as mentioned before, one of the biggest problems people really have is trusting to go with the first impulse. Mm-hmm. And even if you take a very wild notion as, let me talk to my deceased grandfather, and you create a little ritual and you say something, Grandpapa, I would love to know how it is where you are. And then he will answer, but our mind is so trained, it will say, I am making this up. This can't be true. And so we don't really trust the intuition. That's probably our biggest obstacle towards this ever-present phenomenon.
Yeah, and that's actually the tagline for the summit, is how to trust your inner knowing. And how do you, Machiel, help people to trust their dream messages, their ancestors, their intuition?
Just as I do to myself, is encourage to just try. You don't have to be like, oh, I know for 100% sure. Because knowing something for 100% sure and trusting something are two different things. You don't have to trust what you know for sure. You have to trust something you don't know for sure. And so trusting means I'm giving it a chance. I'm favoring this option. I'm going to try it out. It feels really good, so I'm doing this. And so that people know that is trust, and it differentiates from knowing for sure. And the trust can border on, I know this for sure, but things lie in the future. And so you get an idea for a book. I trust that it is a good plan, or it feels really good, so I'm going to do it. And then you just do it. And usually it works out. But even there, sometimes our intuition leads us, let's say, first to Chicago. And then it appears we shouldn't be in Chicago, but there was Jane who told me about Johnny in New York. And I would never gone to New York if I hadn't met Jane in Chicago who told me the right things. So life also works that way. Mm-hmm. And so also all those kind of mysterious unfoldings of the intuitive path that's more serpentine than straight and linear and logic, what we usually feel very comfortable with, requires giving it the benefit of the doubt.
Mm-hmm. Just taking that next step, it sounds like, too, you know, that first impulse. I teach that just your first feeling, like I literally have a worksheet on it, because it's like the second one is usually our minds getting in the way of what the intuition already knows. Yeah. So I love that you said that.
Yeah, agree.
Then over time, people, like you say, can try it out, see what happens, and then in hindsight, notice or discern which experiences played out the way that maybe you felt your intuition was speaking to you, and then you can refine how you might intuit as well.
Yeah, and usually when we don't follow what we felt that felt the right thing, we feel some form of regret, and usually pretty quickly kicking in. feels like, oh, doesn't feel good, but not good like this is scary, but like, oh, it feels like I'm not doing the right thing. I'm about to marry this person, but oh, this doesn't feel good. And there's unfortunately tons of people who, if you ask them, when did you know that you shouldn't be marrying this person? They say, oh, I knew on the day of my marriage. And so they unfortunately did not trust their feeling and did not build a total loyalty to one's own feelings that unfortunately also cannot be justified always with the rational mind. So it's, yeah, I don't know. It feels like I need to do this. So if you don't follow it, also you usually very soon start becoming a little bit neurotic.
What's neurotic mean? Crazy? What's neurotic mean? What's the psychological definition of neurotic?
That is a good question. It is that a little, and when you're neurotic, you start becoming a little bit anxious, and a little, you feel off, and you see sometimes people they tap their fingers, or they're not in tune with themselves, because part of their energy is split off, but that energy is just knocking on the door, and it's like there would be someone knocking now on the door, and I know there's something, and I know something is off, and it is actually, and I know this person on the door is going to tell me, you should not start this business, but I'm just keeping it away, and so it's the intuition knocking on the door that causes the neurotic anxiety to manifest.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I know, just studying the mind, I do a lot of NLP, neuro linguistic programming. And so I know that every part has a positive intention. So even the anxiety or the neurotic behavior, or whatever, it actually, the positive intention is, hello, listen to your intuition. Like, it's actually trying to help you. So even when I had the wellness center, like, people would call me and be like, hey, my husband has it. And I'm like, that's okay. Your husband actually needs to talk to me, because he needs to recognize what's happening, because once he understands his, connection to himself, then he will make that choice. So I think that's the other piece, is just to notice, like, what's going on for you, not for somebody else, but for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have nighttime dreams and we have waking dreams. Can we kind of get into, Machiel, the ways that you help people receive guidance from their inner knowing through dreams?
Well, that is the process of dream guidance, 5-step process, in which, in a nutshell, a person first identifies what their living question is. So people could follow it along right now and just ask themselves, what is alive in me, or what do I really want to know? In a way, you immediately already connect with your own soul or your own inner knowing that jumps forward and says, oh, we want to know about what's going on with this, or why am I so angry, or how could I do this and this better? And we're very often having several questions that are alive in us, and take the question that is alive, because things that really have to do with our life, our intuition responds to. If I want to have an intuition about what my neighbor is doing today, maybe, but most likely, intuition is not responding to that, because it has not. I'm not interested in it. It has nothing to do with me. It has nothing to do with me. But if I would ask, how can I be more kind to myself or the people around me? That then my larger inner knowing is excited and thinks, oh, that has to do with your life, and that benefits you and the larger community. And so ask a question that is alive. Once you have that, you want to write it out, and especially with this dream work, but you could also apply it to asking it right now to your intuition. But in the dreams, write out a question, do one question at a time, make it open-ended, and then engage in some form of a ritual. And a ritual is any way that you just show interest and gratitude to intuition. You say, intuition, I would love for you to help me. I've been listening to Emmy and Abby and Machiel today, and I'm going to try this wild, weird way of asking you a question. And you could even say, I don't know if I trust you. I've never done this, but I'm really open, and I would love for you to help me with how can I grow my business so that more people can benefit from it, or whatever your living question is.
That's a good question. Good question.
And then just go to bed, sleep, meditate before you fall asleep, because the state before you fall asleep transfers into the night. And it's even more helpful to, even if you want to have a relaxed night, meditate a little bit before you fall asleep, so that you don't have your racing mind or all your troubles, because then your troubles will follow you into your dream. And so you meditate on it, wake up, write it down, the dream, otherwise you forget it. Half the times the dream is very clear, the other time you think this has nothing to do with my dream question. Okay, let it just rest, come back later in the day, tell it to someone else. You will see it does, but upon waking, you don't see it right away, or it has a slightly different angle than what you've been thinking about. And so it provides some new insight, but you're in this way and it comes from that way, and you think, oh, that can be it. Or so that's in a nutshell the 5 steps. Identify a question, write it down, do a ritual, meditate in bed, sleep, write it down, and work on it.
Yeah, it sounds so simple, yet it's very powerful. I know, Machiel, when I interviewed you before on New Thinking Aloud, that I practiced your method and I got answers. And what I found is that and you said this in your book, I believe, that if you don't write the question down, or if you don't think about it before you go to bed, you're not going to get the same results. And so I did try both. And I did find that when I wrote down the question and really intended and really focused on that and trusted that some type of insight or answer will come in that dream, that it really produced results. And I also know that you gave an example earlier when we spoke about how you mentioned that somebody put an image under their pillow. Can you share that story, or a story that can help illustrate how this can benefit people?
Yes. So to come back to this notion of you write it down, it has multiple levels. One, it communicates to the intuition or the larger awareness that you're interested. So it picks up that you put in effort, and it responds to that. The other part is that reality creating principles are intent, expectation, belief. And if you can pump up your belief and intent and expectation around something, it's more likely to manifest. And so that is why what I call little rituals, but it's condensed forms of focus and intent that will help co-create reality. Then the example you're referring to was a woman came to me and was pondering about the state of her marriage. She's been married for a long time, and wanted to see what the dream had to say about it. And she took some time and then went through her photo album and found a picture of her wedding day with her hand in the ring and her husband's hand in the ring. So she took that picture, made a copy of it, and then put a question mark on it. And that was her way of asking the question. And then she put that question under the picture with the question mark under her pillow and had a dream. And in the dream, she's working at a factory. And at this factory, she works with all kinds of other women. And they're sitting like in a factory from the 1850s. and her eye falls on a contract. It's her contract, and she earns something like $7.50 an hour, and she thinks that is ridiculous. I should be earning much more than that. It's normal wages would be, I don't know, $40-50 for her. And so she wants to say something about it. And then she wakes up. So she thought about it, and her husband asked, did you have a dream? He didn't know about the question. So she tells this dream, and then the husband says, is there an area in your life where you feel that you're undervalued? And she was like, well, now that you say it, yes, I know exactly where this area is. So that is an example of how the dream responds to a question, gives a good insight on where she is, and it played out in a funny, dramatic way.
So she was able to communicate through his invitation about the message she received in her dream. And please tell us that it had a happy ending.
Well, the happy ending is at least that she knows where what her issue is.
Yeah.
She might have kind of known, but the thing is, if you get an X-ray of what goes on, oh, you experience to be undervalued, and you feel you're like in a factory doing work in this marriage. That is what you experience. Then you know where you are, and then you can figure out how can I live a life that that feels more in line with what I am, mm-hmm. whether that is within the marriage or outside. But you feel empowered to know this is what goes on, and for a certain reason, just like I had in my early 20s, like, oh, here's an X-ray of what's not going well. It's a little bit like, ugh, it's not really cool to learn that about yourself. But without knowing where the problems and woundings are, it's impossible to fix.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure you get this question asked of you a lot. What do you say to the people who are listening saying, well, I don't really have dreams, or I don't remember my dreams, or I find my dreams really don't have a lot of meaning?
Yeah. Well, we're all connected to the world of dream, because the world of dream is present 24/7. We might even consider that we are living within the world of dream, that the world of dream, and then there's this world, and then it's us in this world. So we're surrounded and connected to it. And if that is the experience, then just start there. Oh, that is my experience of not being connected to dreams. Well, the invitation is try it out for a week. Try out a week that you write down your dreams, that maybe you start developing 1 or 2 questions in this week, and you ask your dream a question of something that is really relevant to your life. And then you start nurturing it. And if you feel after a week, yeah, I still don't dream, or I feel this doesn't apply to me, all good. But then you have an attempt to you've verified it for yourself, and just like this technique really only gets a lot of meaning once you get an answer that really works, and you go like, oh my gosh, I have here a really wise old friend standby who wants to help me. Oh, this is good news.
I think we, Abby and I, and it sounds like you do as well, look at intuition as like your wise inner best friend who's always there available to you. And I love what you're saying about give it time, give it a week. And I know that some of our previous guests have really been saying that as well, is that it isn't just give it 5 minutes, and if you don't get what you want out of intuition, that it's not going to work for you. You want to allow yourself to sink into it and be with it to reveal to you what is inside of you.
Yes. And then coming back to what are some of these key elements for intuition to flourish, Well, probably one is also courage. Are you willing to confront the darker parts in yourself? Are you willing to listen to your intuition that says this marriage is no longer good for you, or this job is not good, or jump to build your own business or write a book? Not infrequent in the call, like the Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, the call comes and the hero declines the call. And so that it takes a bit of courage to listen to the call, the intuition as well. And the other thing about intuition and the friend is that as I see it, the friend is not a wish-fulfilling genie. So we have a lot of these days how to manifest whatever you want. And intuition seems to be interested in your life path. So just as I don't get an intuition about what my neighbor does today, but maybe what about the next thing I would be helpful for me to develop or engage. It's more a friend who wants to help you become you. So questions that have to do with you, intuitions that have to do with you, there you get help. And so that's another thing. If people say, gosh, intuition, how do I get that Ferrari? Well, maybe your intuition thinks, as your good friend, that's nice that you want that, but you know, you're really struggling in your primary relationship with speaking up. Let's fix that issue first. And there you get then intuitions on how can I speak up better? And how can I practice this? And I find a book and a course and I find the right therapist. Those would be really helpful intuitions for you, where I might think, or a person might think, oh, how can I work? How can I stop working, be retired, have a mansion in southern France? And that's great fantasies, but the inner friend / intuition might have other ideas for your life.
Yeah, that's beautiful, tying it into purpose. I love that, you know, and that sense of fulfillment that comes when you actually take care of the inner, and then the outer can follow.
Yeah, yeah.
Machiel, how do you understand or define intuition?
It appears to me as a relatively sudden insight or knowing, and or a notion. Maybe the knowing is not as strong, but it feels like, something is calling me in a different direction, and then just follow the trail and see if it's indeed enduring or not. So there I think also where it feels like it's not this I that generates it, but it comes from somewhere else. And at once I know something I didn't know before, or I have a sense about something that I didn't have a sense about before.
Mm-hmm. Also, I'm recalling when we spoke earlier, and I think maybe this might also be in your book, where you talk about how people, you know, I know you mentioned ritual and to have feeling about the question or the query you have about your dream that you hope to receive from your dream, that sometimes people will take days or weeks or even longer to prepare for having a dream that can help them. And so I'm just wondering if you have any stories you want to share about how people have done that.
Well, in the old Greek times, this notion of asking the dream for help was very common, which it actually was in almost any tradition around the world besides the recent Western tradition. You find this notion back in African shamanism, in Hinduism, Buddhism, the Greek times when it was the heydays, and people would walk to the temple of Asclepius, and Asclepius was the god of healing, where they would have a healing dream. So it was there almost exclusively oriented around healing, both physical as emotional healing. But people would prepare. because they would walk for days, and then just the pilgrimage itself would be in preparation, and in that preparation you start building up your expectation, and you're busy with it, your intent and your belief, and you come at the temple and you see dozens or sometimes hundreds of other people with a similar intent, and you have people that just went through it and they get back excited that they had a dream that helped them. So you feel even more like, oh, if it worked for you, hopefully it works for me too. And all that builds up the urgency and the importance. And part of that urgency and importance is what makes it so, what will make it effective. And that's why we want to have something that's emotionally relevant to us. But let's say I have a disease or something that's very serious, I would probably say, well, Dream, next Friday, I'm going to ask you this question. And then the whole week I would start preparing. I would take one day, walk around, find some object that I want to put in my dream question. And another day I would write something. And another day I would think maybe I'm going to fast part of the day or the whole day. All kinds of things to build up the importance of my request. And for whatever reason, that does seem to result in more and clearer response to it. And so I've seen many people in my over the years that had a question that is important to them, whether it is, shall I marry this person? And then, oh, if that's really a big question, and don't just write it down, oh, let me marry, shall I marry, how would it look like if I marry this person? Take your time. Ask it tomorrow or the day after or 4 days, and just build it up. And then people get usually a better dream and a more clear dream. Mm-hmm. But the people that listen this, if they have a question that is alive, do it tonight, because otherwise you postpone it. But if it's a really big question, sometimes it helps to postpone it a little.
Why would someone choose to do this dream incubation process versus maybe go into a meditation or some other method? Like what do dreams do at night that is unique to them, that maybe other methods of accessing our inner knowing might not provide the same experience or information?
Because people like the woman who had the question about the marriage with the hands, the image, her dream was unmistakable for her. If she had done it in a meditation, so maybe she would have the sense, because you don't feel valued. But then she might have doubted, and is this it really? And now it's in a dream, in a form that is so clear that the impact is communicates clear. This is what goes on. It's harder to discount or deny, and that's an advantage.
Mm-hmm. And for those of us, which I think is probably more common than most people discuss or realize, who have precognitive dreams, what is happening there? Where dreams just spontaneously provide information, whether we are knowingly or unknowingly, on whatever level of our consciousness, mm-hmm. are seeking that.
Yeah. The first important thing in that is to realize there's some force inside, outside, somewhere that seems to know about things that happen in the future. And it's talking and communicating with you. And even if it's something silly as, oh, I dream about getting an email from Uncle Harris, and I haven't heard from him in a year, and there the next day is the email, or in 2 days is an email. And that might not mean much on a practical level, but it shows that something knows. And now that you know that there is an inner knowing, you can start building a relationship with this inner knowing, because you know for a fact that there is a knowing that knows. And so you don't have to believe that. And then you can say,
know. That's great.
You know that you know, and I think that's what we're trying to, thank you, Machiel, because that's what we're trying to get the message out, is that I think people really do know, but they doubt, they have fear, and then that can block us from accessing this full awareness that we have.
yes, and that is why don't move to I need to know for sure, but trust is to do, give yourself the benefit of the doubt, or give this knowing the benefit of the doubt. And it will work out most of the time, and once in a while it won't, and who knows why. And it's not because it's malicious, but maybe you interpreted wrong or circumstances changed. But follow that, and your life will just be so much better.
Now, I know that you're the founder of the Jung Platform, so I want to ask you about that, or get some more information about that in a moment. And Jung really did talk about dreams, archetypes, symbols. Is there anything you want to touch on here? I know we're getting here close to the end of the interview, but is there anything you want to touch on around how people can work with those symbols, those metaphors in their dreams? Any tips that you have found over the years that can assist people in that regard?
Well, another form of intuition that Jung touched upon is synchronicity. And synchronicity are those meaningful coincidences. And it's another way in which you live in a universe that is both responsive as interested in helping you become you, individuated. Showing interest, having a conversation with this knowing, and just be real with it. Oh, I don't know if I trust you. All right, then just start there, and say, could you tell me one thing that would be helpful for me to know? And you keep it really open and see what kind of dream you have. And it doesn't stop with the dream. It continues, and it's indeed often you have to ask a question around symbols. Is it literally so there's two ways. It's one that you can ask, what do I associate to this person? I dream about Aunt Joanne. Who is Aunt Joanne? Oh, Aunt Joanne is always grumpy. Oh, grumpiness shows up in your dream dressed up as Aunt Joanne. Or with objects, it's sometimes you ask, what is the function of the car? The function of the car is to bring me from A to B, to move me through life. So your way of moving through life, and then you try to slam the brakes and it doesn't work. And so you're moving through life and you feel you can't slow down. Okay. Do you recognize that in your day-to-day life? And almost always that is yes. But that's a way of working symbolically with the dream images.
What are you thinking, Abby?
I'm thinking I can't wait to go for a run, honestly, because I get so connected to my intuition through movement. So that is what I was thinking. Also, just the integration of intuition. My body, it likes to just move. So that's all I'm thinking, if you really want to know. It's such a great conversation. But yeah, I think it's just integrating it.
And dreams are also very physical experiences. It's we feel the anxiety in our stomach. I'm angry in the dream. I can feel it in the jaws. So dreams are not mental little movies we watch, but are fully embodied experiences. And we can very much get in touch with the body to improve the way we are open to our intuition.
Yeah. The body is such an instrument of it, so I think, it's a lot of information coming through. And so just to allow our bodies to move as we get information, it's like, okay, integrate, absolutely.
It's a good example, Abby, because I think we all have our own constitution, or sort of our own natural energies. as far as how we access intuition. And so it's true. People, like you said earlier, can get in the flow state through movement. And Machiel, I would imagine you would probably say that you can think of your dreams while you're moving if you want to, or that might be a way to help with that dream incubation.
Dreams are very physical phenomenon. If you are stuck somewhere, you have an anxiety in your stomach, you could also just tell the dream, just feel into your anxiety and say, and have an imaginal question mark on it, and then see what responds. So dreams are very embodied phenomena.
Yeah. You mentioned a term which is a Jungian term, individuation. Can you share what that is for people who are maybe not familiar with that?
It's Jung's term for the process of psychological growth. And so he thought that we usually go through a confrontation with the shadow, our male and female side, an encounter with the old wisdom within, and the guiding center, what he calls the self with a capital S. And that journey is a journey of a lifetime, and he calls it the individuation process, a conscious coming to terms with the depths of our own being and the realization of what we are meant to be.
Yeah. And you are the founder of the Jung Platform. Can you share what that is? And also, I know you have an offer, a gift for our summit attendees through the end of 2023.
Yes. So let me start with the gift, because that's maybe what people are most interested in. It's the 40% discount on the first purchase on the Jung Platform, JUNG platform.com, for 40% on any program that they like. And so you have classical Jungian programs about synchronicity, shadow, archetypes, sense of purpose. We have also African shamanism, or programs on the tarot or the I Ching, all kinds of forms of getting in touch with the other world and strengthening our relationship of it and developing consciousness.
So if you want to go ahead and just share about the Jung Platform and how people can get in touch with you.
Well, the Jung Platform is actually also born out of a nighttime dream that I had, that was a suggestion to build a platform for depth psychological, soul psychological perspective. And Jung is the main proponent of that in the West. And so we have over 200 programs there, courses for the general audience that can help them in their journey through life, whether it's relationships or shadow or any topic that's relevant to them. And people can also get in touch with me by going to my, either through the Jung Platform or my personal website. Probably have to put it in the show notes because it's my name, machielklerk.com. And I'm also a psychotherapist with a small private practice. So if people are interested in psychotherapy that has infused with some dream work, then they're welcome to reach out that way as well.
Thank you so much for being with us, Machiel. Is there anything else you want to share today?
But it is just a joy being with you, Emmy and Abby, and dance in this intuitive field. And I liked how we intuitively asked questions and answers and engaged in the conversation. So that was a delight to be here.
Oh, thank you. A delight for us as well. You've given us a lot to consider, Machiel, and I am excited to get back to my dream journal myself and my dreaming. Thank you.
Let's see what dream says tonight.
What dreams may come. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye, everybody. Be well.